Hello everybody, and thanks for participating in the Morgan Allen Associates webinar, in which we will look at what next for the UK after the Brexit deal. My name is Stefano Falciani, and I'm director and partner at Morgan Allen and Associates. Morgan Allen Associates help businesses to address strategic and operational underperformance, and helps finding solutions to funding and financial problems. We can help clients to develop and implement restructuring strategies, exploit global opportunities, whether through investments, international expansion, new market assessment and development, or through external acquisition, and optimize their financial structure. Now, it is no surprise that today's webinar is oversubscribed with such an eminent panel to explore this important subject. So I'm delighted to introduce to you Professor Sangeeta Khorana, professor at Birmingham University, international trade policy expert, Marco Forgione, Director General at the Institute of Export and International Trade, Alessandro Chiozzi, Head of European Wholesale Bank Supervision Department at FCA, Financial Conduct Authority, and Karen Sandhu, Head of Financial Businesses, Services and Technology at London and Partners. So now, please allow me to ask you, the panelists, to introduce very quickly themselves. Starting with Karen, please.
Thanks, Stefano, and hello everyone. So I'm Karen Sandhu, Head of Financial Business Technology at London Partners. So we support international businesses who are looking to set up, or my team do, in the financial business services technology space into London.
Okay, Alessandro, do you want to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Stefano. Hi, everyone. Alessandro Chiozzi. I'm the head of the European Wholesale Banks Supervision Department at the Financial Conduct Authority. I've been working on Brexit-related matters in this role, obviously, but also in my previous role for about 4 years now. So hopefully I will be able to contribute to this discussion on that basis.
Thank you. Marco?
There had to be one. So Marco Forgione, I am the Director General at the Institute of Export and International Trade. The Institute is the leading membership professional body representing both the professionals and businesses involved in international trade. We are a UK charity, but we work internationally, currently delivering projects in Ghana and in Sub-Saharan Africa and in Central Asia. Helping support both education, training, and skills development in international trade.
Thank you, Marco. And Sangeeta?
Hi, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Sangeeta Khorana, I'm Professor for Economics at Bournemouth University, and my area of research is trade agreements and how to negotiate successful trade agreements. So that's my expertise, and I really look forward to this, to the interaction today. Thank you so much, Stefano, for this invitation.
It's our pleasure to have you here, Sangeeta. So please, Sangeeta, let me start from you with my first question. My first question is the following. I'm wondering, how is the UK reshaping its position post-Brexit? And while doing this, if I would ask you also to give us, please, an overview of strengths and weaknesses of the UK economy.
Thank you so much. Well, everyone would agree with me that this has been a very significant turn in the history of the nation. And the UK is actually reshaping the position globally post-Brexit, as you just mentioned. And let me just develop this a bit forward. So the move by the UK of leaving the EU and trying to negotiate trade deals with other countries, it has been significantly a very progressive move. Now, why do I say this is a very progressive move? Because for the first time, the UK has actually gone out to the world with a global Britain agenda. And it's been trying to roll out this agenda in a very positive manner. Now, to give you an update as to what's happening at the moment, the UK is actually negotiating with Australia. The 4th round is currently on. We've just started. The negotiations with the US are ongoing, with New Zealand as well. And as you would all know, that the UK joined the CPTPP, which involves 11 nations in East Asia. This was on the 31st of January. Now, we also know that Liz Truss was in India, and there was another visit followed up by Alok Sharma to basically, this is all warming up to planning a deal with India. So clearly we can see that there's a lot of momentum here, and the UK is actually trying to reshape its position in terms of its economic relations with these countries. Now, absolutely hot off the press is also that the UK might even contemplate joining another agreement, which is called the ACCTS. This is the Agreement on Climate Change, Trade and Sustainability, for which negotiations have been ongoing. So the UK might even join that, which means that it's going to play a very proactive role, not only within the region, but globally as well, and as a major trading power within the WTO.
Interesting. And in terms of, let's say, sector of UK economy that you think are very strong, which one would you highlight most?
Well, services are the strongest sector of the UK. And I'm sure my eminent panelists will stand by my side and come to my rescue actually and talk a little bit about services, because we do know that the biggest strengths of the UK are in financial services and also in professional business services, in creative services. So it is in the service economy that the UK really is immensely strong, and also in some sectors where there is niche manufacturing.
Okay. And do you see any other agreement that we can expect? I don't know, there were rumors about Commonwealth potential agreements, or maybe with Africa. Do you think, is there anything real in this kind of rumors?
If we look at the Commonwealth, then we know that India is a very big player in the Commonwealth, as is Canada, as is Australia. So clearly there is a move towards doing deals with Commonwealth countries like India, Australia, Canada, as I just mentioned. And these deals are now, especially for Australia, the negotiations have been on for some time. As I mentioned, the 4th round is on. With India, a lot of groundwork has been done in the past months. And we already have a deal with Canada because that was just rolled over from the EU.
Great, thank you for this. And I was also curious to ask you, given the fact that we have a new Director General at the WTO. Now I have to read the name because I'm sorry, I cannot remember. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. Hopefully I pronounced it well. But what is important is that for the first time is a woman, and for the first time is an African person. So which kind of expectation and which kind of, let's say, changes do you think she could, let's say, carry into this World Trade Organization?
Thank you, Stefano. Very interesting question. And yes, very topical. Everyone seems to be talking about the first woman, the first African woman who's taken over at the helm of the WTO. Very interesting time. But at the same time, it's very challenging as well if you look at it from the perspective of where the global economy is at the moment, because COVID has really hit global economies in a very negative manner. Now, we knew that trade wasn't doing very well. But now, given that COVID has also happened, COVID came and hit the supply chains and disrupted supply chains, I think the biggest and I could actually count a few priorities that the new DG will have on my fingers. And in the order of importance, well, the whole global economy has been disrupted as a result of COVID. Supply chains have been disrupted. So clearly, the WTO has to step in and take a very leading role to make sure that trade levels are held. But at the same time, let's also think that because economies are massively under stress at the moment and debt burdens are building up, this is also having an impact on the sustainable development goals and the contribution towards that. At the same time, I think a very big challenge that she faces is that the importance of the WTO and the role of WTO at the multilateral level has been eroded with time. It's not as important as it was in early 2000s. And why? Because too many FTAs have been concluded bilaterally, and there are too many innovations that have happened within the FTAs. So clearly, the WTO has to take on a very important role in trying to bring all the FTAs all together and get some common rules rather than having a lot of commotion, which we have at the moment. One more aspect that she will have to really work hard is to build trust between WTO members, because over the last 2, 3, 4 years, as a result of the war that has been ongoing, the trade wars between China and America, just to give you an example, that has also eroded trust among WTO members. And most importantly, I think the reform of the dispute settlement mechanism is really on top of the agenda. And finally, we have to all appreciate that the nature of trade is changing, and we are moving more and more towards an e-commerce. We are moving more towards digital trade. So this is the time when the WTO has to really play a very proactive role in making sure that there are definitive rules on e-commerce. So I think her plate is very full at the moment. She has a very busy 4 years in front of her.
Thank you very much, Sangeeta. I don't know if any of the panelists have any question. I just realized that I forgot to tell to the attendees that they can make questions, but using the Q&A button at the bottom. And we will try, let's say, to ask this question if, of course, as you can understand, being conscious of the time that we have available, if these questions do not carry us too far away from what we are saying.
Stefano, sorry, could I just pick up on a comment from Sangeeta, particularly around the new DG, the WTO. How important do you think it is that, although obviously a Nigerian by heritage, she is a US citizen, US educated, as worked for a US bank, and as a US citizen is resident in the US at the point in time when there is a new administration under Biden. Do you see that as a significant indicator that potentially we can move back to a more global rules-based system of trade?
I think that is what is going to happen, which is why I said these are some important challenges when I pointed out. I think it's really important that they need to dust the WTO. They need to build credibility again, because a dispute settlement mechanism is in tatters. I mean, and countries are just going and doing bilateral trade deals, which are much more deeper than WTO agreements. So yes, that's the short answer.
Thank you, Sangeeta. And let's say, as a last question, given that the picture that you gave us, do you think, where do you think there will be opportunities for the UK companies?
Sorry, you said it's for the UK companies, right?
Yes, yes, please.
Yes, so I think it's the way how companies look at this as an opportunity or as a challenge. Personally, I would say that companies have to look at the current situation and climate as an opportunity, and they must really become very proactive, trying to invest in other parts of the world, getting investment into the UK, because this is what is going to drive the economic recovery of the country post-coronavirus. Now, let me just allude very briefly to Freeports. And this is where businesses will play a very important role, because the government has actually come up with a major plan to come up with 10 Freeports. Now, I think this is an opportunity for businesses to spread their wings far and wide and do trade with other countries, because all along, trade had been done under EU rules. I think it's for the first time that the UK will have the flexibility of striking trade deals with other partners. To give you an example, the UK is now negotiating trade deals, and this is the best opportunity that the UK has to ensure that the partners reduce the non-tariff barriers that they have in place. And these non-tariff barriers could be in terms of technical barriers to trade, or SPS, or licensing, or price controls. So this is an opportunity. That's how I would promote the current climate as. Because we must remember that the UK firms are competitive, and especially when it comes to using AI. This is where the firms have really, really made a very major progress. So when it comes to innovation and commerce, this is where I think the UK firms should be looking at.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Very interesting. So thanks for, let's say, setting up the playground, Sangeeta. So I would switch to Alessandro. Alessandro, I would like to learn from you more about the implication of Brexit on the UK financial sector. And of course, how it will be affected now that we are outside the EU.
Yeah, thank you, Stefano. As Sangeeta said, obviously, like financial services have been historically one of the strongest sectors of the UK economy. Historically, financial services have been a major contributor of the UK's trade surplus in services. More generally, and obviously the EU27 was their main economic partner and the main market for those exports. It's also fair to say that financial services have been heavily affected by Brexit. As you know, many people would know, firms in the financial services sector would have relied on passporting to serve EU clients out of the UK, and obviously also vice versa. And passporting was a system set out by EU regulation, whereby firms could simply rely on their authorization in one of the EU 28 and now obviously 27 countries to do business in the entire European Union. The loss of passporting, which obviously happened on the 1st of January when the transition period finished, forced the firms to find alternative ways of continuing to serve their clients in Europe out of London, or to access certain markets. So a lot of firms have had to open subsidiaries or branches in the European Union, which they would have not necessarily had in the past, because obviously London was seen as the main center to operate across the entire Europe. And that was true, especially of the largest firms, like the banks and the large banks, the large American, Japanese banks, and so on, which would have now opened new legal entities in the European Union. We read a lot in the newspapers about like firms relocating, firms moving, and so on. And I have to say that's often like slightly misleading, because very, very few firms would have moved altogether. In most cases, firms have moved a little bit of their business to Europe. And especially this has affected like the client relationship side of things. But it's also fair to say that a lot of the value chain remains in the UK. A lot of the expertise remains in the UK. In fact, London and London-based companies remain an exceptional pool of talent and expertise in the financial services sector. And London remains a center of excellence for many areas of financial services, even where some of the client relationships have moved. The only other thing that I wanted to point out is that although, as it has been mentioned, obviously, the negotiations for the deal finished in December, and the deal was signed, and the 1,300 pages document or whatever was published. I have to say, luckily, on a personal level, I didn't have to read much of that, because financial services were almost completely left outside of that deal. Which means, obviously, that was not great for the industry from one perspective, but it also means that actually the negotiations in the financial services space are still going on, and there is a high-level agreement to come up with a memorandum of understanding between the UK and the European Union by the end of March, which could obviously lead to further progress. Mutual equivalence, which is an arrangement that would partially replace the previous passporting rights, is still on the table. It still remains, in my view, the best possible outcome to continue to ensure market users have access to the best liquidity on both sides of the channel. And it could be one.
Alessandro, correct me if I'm wrong,
Sure.
but regarding this, I heard that there is a debate between identical and equivalent, right? So can you please expand this? Because what is the difference, and what we are talking about?
At the moment, what happened with Brexit on day one after Brexit, the UK effectively, and I'm simplifying a little bit, but effectively the UK copy-pasted the European legislation into the UK rule book. So effectively now the financial services regulation in the UK is almost identical to the framework in the European Union, with very limited exceptions. Obviously, like where there were references to the European Commission, there would be HMT in the UK. Where there were references to ESMA, there would be the Financial Conduct Authority, and so on. But effectively, the two rule books look exactly the same, or almost exactly the same at the moment. However, equivalence is a political process. It's not just a technical process, and it's granted on the European side by the European Commission, and on the UK side by the Treasury. So obviously, it's still part of the negotiation. The European Union and obviously the UK has also adopted the same decisions, have previously granted equivalence in some specific areas to countries like the United States, for example, or Singapore for other areas, which obviously are not identical and are much more different than the differences that there are currently between the European Union and the UK. So we can still hope that an agreement could be reached between the EU and the UK.
Thank you. Thank you. Alessandro, also, what do you think it will be the impact of Brexit on the equity market in UK, meaning the domestic equity market in UK?
Yeah, That's an interesting question. So again, the UK before Brexit was the main equity market for the entire Europe, and it, especially from a trading perspective, I think something like 60 or 65% of the whole trading of European stocks was executed out of London. For the non-European and non-UK stocks, that has already changed, and it changed almost overnight on the 2nd, 4th of January, whatever was the first working day of the year. But obviously for the UK market, more specifically for the primary market, so IPOs, but also the trading of UK stocks, very little has changed so far. The UK market, from the secondary market perspective, remains an extremely liquid market and one of the most liquid in Europe. And from a primary market perspective, the pool of capital that London can offer is still unparalleled in the European Union. And of course, the European Union is trying to address this through the Capital Markets Union. But for the time being, the environment that London can offer is not comparable.
Okay, thank you. Because we are all aware that how important it is to have a healthy and liquid equity market to, let's say, to fund businesses. And still from this point of view, Alessandro, what do you think London has to do to retain its, let's say, very important position? If I'm not mistaken, it's the second in the world largest venture capital market.
So again, for me, it's going to be very difficult to look at specific markets in isolation, and the broader role of the broader environment and market infrastructure will remain extremely important. So there are a number of historical, legal, structural reasons why that is the case. But there are also, reasons that are related to, that are more based on contingencies and are related to, for example, the pool of expertise that is in London, the pool of capital, obviously, that is in London, but also on the opposite side, the wealth of ideas and, the many startups that have decided to base themselves in the UK in the past that would, generate more interest from VC investors. So I think in the past that there has been a sort of virtuous loop of demand and supply of capital in London, but also in the UK more broadly, and that has generated obviously the growth of the legal expertise, the growth of the investment expertise, and so on. And it will be difficult to undo that entirely. And if Europe wants to build something that can compete with the UK market, it will take time. Okay,
great. Thank you very much, Alessandro. This carried me to Karen. I first came across London and Partners years and years ago. Probably the London and Partners also changed name.
Oh, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, exactly. So before the name changing in London and Partners. So yes, quite a few years ago. And when I was at an event that, let's say, was encouraging high-tech and fintech businesses establishment in London. So please, Karen, for our audience, would you please maybe explain, a bit what London and Partners exactly does and what's your role in the organization?
Absolutely, thanks, happy to. So London Partners is the promotional agency for London. So we're a public-private partnership, partly funded by the Mayor's Office and partly funded by grants and partnerships. Our services are free and confidential. We help to promote London internationally and drive international investment into London. For us, London is the 33 boroughs that comprise London. by attracting businesses, major events, conventions, students and visitors. We also work with London businesses as they look to internationalise and expand. We have 2 trade programmes, and we're focused on job creation, economic growth. So we cover the world, a small remit, and we have offices in North America, Paris, Germany, India and China, and they're on the ground, sowing the seeds about London, helping to drive businesses here. And I mentioned that we work with partners. On the business side, we have about 50 carefully selected partners in recruitment, relocation, immigration, HR, legal, accountancy, you name it. Whatever a business needs to set up, we have a partner who can. We have partners who can help them. They all provide about an hour's free advice. Depending on the sector the business is in, we can also advise on ways for them to find the best talent, network them into whichever community they're looking to meet. Be networked into, introducing them to trade bodies, associations, advising on speaking opportunities, panel opportunities, demo opportunities. We also have a huge amount of data and research comparing London to other cities and also other cities in the UK as well. And the services that we provide are really bespoke in order to help businesses navigate all of those opportunities. And we've been known to accelerate the setup of a company in London by anything from 6 months to a year.
Fantastic, thank you. Now, Sangeeta was highlighting before the importance of high-tech companies, and providing high-tech and fintech services. And Alessandro highlighted the importance of the financial services role for the UK economy. I saw a recent report issued by London and Partners, if I remember well, last month, providing very, noticeable figures regarding the importance of London in this sector. So can you please expand a bit this?
Yeah, I mean, so we work really closely with all of our partners and stakeholders, adapting how we can. So we obviously, like most people, most companies went virtual a year ago. So our trade programs kind of instead of taking an in-person fintech delegation to New York, for instance, we then took, a fintech delegation to the whole of North America. We had an education tech, edtech, lots of techs, delegation to China. We've had, virtual roundtables with ministers, key stakeholders for all of our companies that are growing in London. And I mentioned our trade programs. We've got a business growth program, which is a 3-month trade program. And that had the biggest and most diverse cohort this past summer with 81 companies attending their program. You've got certain requirements you have to meet. And they delivered 100 one-to-one meetings, 21 core business workshops, and that's just one of the programs. We've held webinars with our partners on resilience and Brexit, running events where our clients that we've helped to set up in London, they can kind of be ambassadors and about why they chose London and top tips on navigating businesses setting up here. We also work really closely with, the likes of the Department of International Trade and different economic development corporations around the world, providing kind of tailored sector knowledge, educating businesses on why they should come here. For example, we had a fintech mission to North America last year in October, and we had some matchmaking sessions that we set up with our trade clients who were on the mission, who were looking to go to North America, had one-to-one matchmaking sessions with North America businesses who were looking to come to London. So it's, lots of connections. We also amplify good news stories about how businesses in London have helped each other during the last year. And they really have. I mean, I think London's really shown itself to be really resilient, and the UK. Some fantastic funding stories and clients that have launched. We've also got a WhatsApp group that promotes good news stories to stakeholders, and they then promote these on their social channels. And this year, obviously, we've had to adapt our strategy and according to what we're, the world as it changes every day at this rate. So we're going to be focusing on supporting economic growth that's resilient, sustainable and inclusive. So that's about supporting high growth businesses to make green choices, working to ensure that the growth we create benefits disadvantaged Londoners. So supporting underrepresented founders, which we do currently, but helping them even more and helping businesses be more inclusive in their hiring.
Okay, so these are probably the trends that you see happening now, but is there any other, let's say, particular trends that you see happening in London economy? And which one do you envisage to be, that could be the most important in the coming years?
Yeah, so we've actually been surprised by how many companies have continued to come to London in the last year, despite the challenges. We've worked with more companies in the last year than the year before, weirdly.
Oh.
And when we help a company set up, we always ask them how many jobs they foresee they, in year one as opposed to year three. And they are forecasting smaller headcounts, but this is largely uncertainty around COVID. I wouldn't say it's uncertainty around Brexit. Businesses don't like uncertainty. And now that we're not part of Europe, they at least now know this and how it impacts them. And, London's one of the most diverse, and if I'm going to obviously be the champion of London here, but London's one of the most diverse and innovative cities in the world. It's home to world-class digital, creative and tech industries, which benefit from the wealth of talent here. And one thing that we talk about a lot at London Partners is, London and the UK continue to adopt new innovation. So 71% of UK digitally active customers in the UK use fintech services, well ahead of the USA at 46% and Germany, France and Canada. 6 million UK adults downloaded a banking app for the first time since COVID happened, which is huge, as you can imagine. There's a lot going on. Fintech is ever evolving. It's demonstrated real resilience, as Alessandro said, this year, and it brings confidence to overseas businesses. I would say the future of London's tech scene looks promising, especially with that report that you mentioned. London VC firms raised record levels of fresh capital to deploy in 2021 and 2020 even. Yeah,
and that's very, very important. And I have a last question for you, Karen. In terms of, let me ask you which kind of advice you would give to a business that is looking to set up in London.
Great question. So I would say utilize the free support that you can get, not just from us, but the Department of International Trade. They've got a huge amount of resources as well, especially on Brexit as well. Speak to the experts who can help you navigate setting up. There are so many setting up guides from our lawyers and accountants. We also have one. There are lots of resources out there, and just utilize the networks. I would say, helping businesses set up the last 8 years, London is an extremely collaborative city. People want to help you. So take that help. Look at trade bodies and associations that can help you. And if you're looking to set up, think about immigration and setting up a bank account early enough so you don't get, think about it early so you're prepared.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Karen. So,
can I jump in with a quick question for Karen?
Thank you.
I was just curious, Karen, I guess, with the new work from home trend and everything, it is likely that, first, more companies will set up as virtual only, maybe. And second, I guess, for those companies that will continue to have, offices and headquarters and so on, I assume probably the price of offices even in London will go down quite significantly as we keep, reading in the news that a lot of companies are downsizing and, trying to rent out part of their offices. What do you think the overall impact of these slightly different trends will be?
Yeah, that's a good question. And it's one that we'd have answered actually in some webinars that we've had recently. So we've spoken to our partners in the property space, co-working space. There are over 280 co-working spaces in London. And actually they're still seeing a high demand for their needs. It feels like companies are just looking at the end goal and realize that actually they do need space. Funnily enough, I thought they would have to really decrease and downsize on the space quite a lot. But what they're telling us is that actually no, because they're still trying to keep 2 meters apart, a distance apart from each other. So actually they're not downsizing as much as you would think they are. And a lot of the co-working spaces are totally adapting their models. You know, they're making sure that, you know, these booths are not just anyone can use them. They're a one person, you know, all the time booth. So I would say that actually, again, I think they're being quite resilient. I'm not saying it's not going to have an effect, but I don't think it will be as bad as everyone might think it might be.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Karen. So my next question is for Marco. Marco, I'm wondering if you can, let's say, tell us which kind of impact could have a Brexit on companies only providing services. I'm asking this because we just heard the importance of the services company for the UK economy.
It's a brilliant question, Stefano, and it is particularly important for the UK economy. As we've heard, 80% of the UK economy is trade and services. You know, the City of London is the global centre of excellence for professional services and finance services. And Karen's role in promoting London as a global hub is really key and essential. And I believe passionately that actually Brexit does provide a global outlook for the UK, and particularly for our trade and services. Now, there are issues to be resolved. There are issues around mutual recognition and data equivalence that need to be resolved, and the UK government is doing great work in negotiating those, both on a point-to-point basis, for instance, the tech bridge with Australia, but also on a global pan-national basis, the CPTPP that Sangeeta mentioned, obviously will involve trade and services as a key and fundamental part of that. But by taking a global outlook, it actually opens the potential for businesses that are trading in services that are based in the UK. The Karen's point around fintech isn't missed. You look at what's happening in Africa, and there was a leap that took place to digital. They missed out the landline. They moved directly to digital, and there is huge growth potential around fintech. You know, you look at Nigeria, population of 200 million, average age I think is somewhere in the mid-30s. The population is predicted between now and 2050 to grow to double, so from 200 million to 400 million. There's huge potential there for UK-based digital services industries. I'm not saying that we are in the sunlit uplands, Stefano, but I think freed from the constraints that existed previously, the UK is really well placed to take advantage of a globally growing economy.
It's great to have such an enthusiastic person with us today. And Marco, also Sangeeta was mentioning before Freeports, no? So what will be the effect of these proposed Freeports?
The Freeports, it's a brilliant initiative. It's something that comes in and out of favour and has done historically. And it was sort of in favour then out of favour within the UK, and the Rishi Sunak, the Chancellor, is a very keen advocate of Freeports, and I believe that there is huge potential now. There's huge potential because it creates a clear indicator that the UK is open for business and that we are keen on attracting high quality, good quality business to set up in the UK, but that has to focus not just on manufacturing or supply chain, but those are important. But the Freeports now should also encompass the value and potential of the service sector. So any Freeport that is being developed currently, and the bids are in, and we should hear in a matter of weeks which Freeports have been granted the go-ahead. I think there is a massive potential for those to be real hubs of innovation and to spark regional growth in the UK. but also to network and link internationally. You look at the potential for a Freeport potentially in Thames Gateway or on Humberside to link with the Freeports in the Mediterranean or in the Middle East as a complete link to give access to those growing and expanding markets. And the secret with the Freeports, I believe passionately, is that they need now to be very much a high skill environment. This isn't about providing just the lowest possible denominator based on tariff inversion, because frankly, that won't work. The DIT, the government have established a global tariff, which makes tariff inversion pretty much meaningless. We've made a clear statement as a UK government that we will believe in free trade, low tariff, low intervention, and a globalist approach. Fabulous. So the free ports that exist have to differentiate themselves, and it's around high skills, and it's around driving up that engagement and integration between services and manufacturing. The reality is most manufacturers now, that's a sweeping statement, a lot of manufacturers today are making their money on the services that are wrapped around the products that they're selling. And so that's the focus. And I believe that Freeports will be huge engines for growth and for the restructuring of the UK economy in the new trading environment.
Thank you very much. Also, Marco, I'm a bit unclear on custom declaration and what I need to do if I'm importing or exporting now after Brexit. Can you please clarify a bit?
It's very simple, Stefano. Get someone to help you. Now, I won't turn this into a pitch because obviously the Institute provides a huge amount of training, education, and support around customs, and we provide qualifications plus more direct training. But the reality is, for most businesses, it's going to be quicker, simpler, more efficient for you to bring in or to access a customs expert to support you if you're moving goods or indeed dealing with those other behind the border regulatory issues, to bring in an expert who will support and train your team where you need to have that knowledge and expertise. And the reason for that is that customs and trade is not fixed and settled. The regulations change on a regular basis, and the regulations in one nation will change more regularly than another nation. So it's important that you are, as a business, informed and engaged with what's happening. And to do that effectively, I would suggest that you work with experts in the field, and that there are many who provide that service, and the Institute of Export and International Trade is one of those.
Okay. And how does the end of the transition affect, let's say, parallel import and exports?
What it does brilliantly, Stefano, is it removes inertia from business, because as of the 1st of January, anyone trading with the EU is now either an exporter or an importer. And if that's the case, and it is, if you're doing it with the EU, you may as well be doing it in the rest of the world as well. So I think it overcomes the inertia whereby it was easy to trade with the EU because there were no restrictions, there was no bureaucracy. Now there is bureaucracy to trade with the EU. And if you're dealing with the bureaucracy to deal with the EU, what's to stop you dealing with the bureaucracy that exists with the rest of the world? So I think it creates a spur for all UK businesses who've traded historically just with the EU to take a truly global approach and think the marketplace for our services and for our goods is global.
Okay. Now, my next question is a bit in the opposite direction. If I'm a small company that is occasionally, let's say, because maybe I'm an SME, no? Exporting, what I need to be aware of? Probably exactly what you just said. No?
It depends what it is that you're exporting. Are you exporting a service? Are you exporting a good? Is it a regulated good? Where are the commodities that go into it? Manufactured. There are issues around rules of origin that impact you. So you do need to get help and support. And the brilliant thing is, of course, that the government has provided grant funding to support you with education and training. They've continued that. I think every business very soon will be able to apply for a £2,000 grant to help them understand the challenges that they need to overcome in order to continue to trade safely and efficiently and friction-free and compliantly going forward. And in addition, the government has set out its stall that they are determined to support all UK businesses to take a global approach. And there is a match fund of up to £9,000 available to all businesses to undertake research and support them in growing their international businesses. And
if I'm exporting to Ireland, given the question that around the border with Ireland, is there anything specific that I need to take into account?
So I have to caveat everything I'm about to say in that the Institute of Export is a partner who is involved in delivering the Trader Support Service, which is a government initiative to help all UK businesses or all businesses trading into and out of Northern Ireland. So I can be frank with regards to what the situation is, but I can't go into detail, Stefano, if you want me to go into more detail, because we are involved in delivering on behalf of government on the TSS project. Okay. But the reality is Northern Ireland is unique, is a globally unique situation in that it exists today in 2 customs unions. It's the only territory, only place in the world that exists in 2 customs unions at the same time. It is in the UK customs union and in the EU customs union, which means that if you move goods from GB into Northern Ireland, you have to comply with the bureaucratic requirements of the EU customs union. But what that means for businesses in Northern Ireland is that they are in 2 customs unions. So for them to trade with GB is as easy as for them to trade with the rest of the world. And I think that with a free port in Northern Ireland and with its special status as being in 2 customs unions at the same time, it has the potential going forward to become absolutely the engine of growth and development going forward.
Thank you, Marco. So now let me see if we have any question for the panelists coming from the audience. I believe I saw there was one for Sangeeta. So the question for you is on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate, Sangeeta, the TCA that the UK has negotiated?
Well, it's work in progress. That's what I would say. It's very difficult to put a number to it at the moment. And I would definitely say that it's just the first step. And we've started discussing what that defines the contours of the relationship. So it's work in progress, and I would not be inclined to put a number to it unless someone else would like to take the risk.
No, but do you think it's progressing well or not?
Yes, obviously, because as Alexandro just mentioned, that discussions for services are ongoing, negotiations are ongoing. So yes, and well, there is momentum in terms of goods as well. So this is an agreement that will grow with time.
I see.
So Stefano, if I can add on this, it's definitely true that in some areas it's not a done deal, but it's still a work in progress. But I also think that one thing that is interesting to consider is that in different areas, measuring success will be more or less easy. And obviously some sectors are being like so much affected by COVID, much more than Brexit, that makes, any sort of Brexit related impact only a rounding error compared to, the huge impact that COVID had. So in some sectors, I expect it would be very, very difficult to look back and disentangle what was the impact brought by Brexit compared with COVID.
Sorry, Stefan, can I just add to that? Alessandro is spot on. It's difficult to disentangle the impact of the Brexit situation from COVID and the global impact on that, because it's just they coincide. But I think we need to just take a step back and consider that the trade and collaboration agreement between GB and EU is the largest trade agreement ever secured. 650 billion pounds of trade deal secured in breakneck speed. This was the fastest trade agreement ever that has been drawn to conclusion. Now that there are issues, and a big concern that I have is the lack of clarity with regards to trade in services. But I think, with the great work that the government is doing, that organisations like London and Partners are doing, that the government will understand the requirements, the needs and implications of securing clarity around trade in services. And that, to Sangeeta's point, this is not a finished point. This is an appreciation of the fact that both GB and EU, we are partners, we will continue to be partners going forward, and that we need to collaborate and cooperate across a whole raft of different issues. And that the opportunity now is on a global basis, and for us with the EU to partner to create a globally appreciated and understood platform of free trade, low regulatory, low imposition, low behind the border barriers, to ensure that there is a free trade and free flow of goods and services.
Thank you. Thank you, Marco. So being conscious of time, because time flies, and 1 hour has passed more or less. So let me just ask you just a couple of questions, and I would be very happy if you could answer very quickly with just a few seconds. No? What are the top 3 things businesses, in your opinion, should be thinking about for 2021? So I don't know if Sangeeta, you want to start with this?
Thank you so much, Stefano. Yes, the top 3 things that businesses should be thinking about at the moment, I think the main message that businesses have is, how do they come out of COVID? Because COVID has really had a very negative impact on businesses. We are seeing how businesses are just folding up, how sectors are getting decimated as a result of COVID. So the impact has been hugely adverse on businesses. So I think their main priority at this point in time is to claw back and come back to where they were pre-COVID. And then I think once they have been able to start, once they are able to breathe again and they are in some form of normal shape, that is when they can start thinking of expanding. But at the moment, the main concern is how to stay afloat and be alive. That is what, that is my opinion.
Thank you.
As much as I speak to businesses, because they keep, each business that I speak to, any association I speak to, they just say that businesses have been very negatively impacted.
Yes. Thank you, Sangeeta. Alessandro?
Couple of thoughts. So first, for businesses, other UK businesses or businesses that trade with the UK, between Brexit and COVID, everything has been thrown up in the air. And of course, there are risks related to this, but there are also loads of opportunities. So for me, businesses should really try to look, at the bright side, and what are the opportunities, what are the gaps, where are markets that are opening up, or firms that are retracting from certain markets, and therefore, there could be opportunities to gain market shares. So this is one, try to consider what is the good in a situation that is challenging. And then for me, the other key consideration is, especially thinking about COVID, there are a lot of changes that have been brought by COVID, and the sort of remote environment and so on. And firms should be considering very carefully what are the trends that are here to stay, and what are the trends that will be reversed as soon as we hopefully go back to a sort of normal situation. And firms that get that right, that bet on the right trends, will have a massive competitive advantage in the future situation.
Yeah, good one. Karen?
I was going to say, I mean, I completely agree. There's lots of opportunity. There are certain industries that have been really successful and performed strongly this last year. Education tech, I've mentioned, fintech, gaming, medical tech, e-commerce especially. So there's opportunity out there. I think if you're an international business looking to scale to London, then you've got access to customers and capital. But I mean, personally, I just think it's been such a tumultuous year for people that I think you need to think about your people. Because it's been a very hard year. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, right. Thank you. Marco.
Can I add something?
Please,
Steph?
please, yes.
I think businesses have to be very agile at this point. That is one more thing that businesses have to learn to adapt. They have to be resilient and they have to be really very agile. Because if they are not agile, they will not be able to survive the current crisis.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
So Marco, now you are in the worst position now as the last person.
Everyone's been brilliant. Everyone's been brilliant. Come up with fabulous comments. I will make a couple of statements, and I will make a bid or a plea as to what could or shouldn't happen. The first is to Karen's point. Yes, things have been difficult. Yes, things have been tough, but there have been tremendous success stories as well of businesses that have, to Sangeeta's point, been flexible, been agile, and have managed to adapt both what they do and how they do it. And I'm not setting the Institute up as an exemplar of excellence, but over the past year, we've grown 600%. We've gone from 15 employees to 100 employees over the course of what's taken place. And our focus has been on delivering in a new way and to expand and drive value and quality in what we offer. And most importantly, to Karen's point, we've invested in our team and in our people. And it's organizations that can seize those opportunities and are able to pivot their businesses that will seize the opportunity and be able to grow and reshape in the new economy that exists from now on. And the UK is a vibrant hub of innovation. It always has been. And I think that we have both the environment, the rules-based, the law-based system, and the entrepreneurial encouragement that the UK absolutely can be the global hub, helping to reshape what the economy of the world will look like as we recover from COVID, as we build into a truly digital environment. With a plea to what businesses should do is to be dynamic and to be fearless in what they do. But my main bid with regards to what should happen is actually what shouldn't happen. And my plea would be for governments to not take the easy step, the seemingly easy step of becoming protectionist as we move forward. That in fact, we should be lowering barriers, not raising barriers. And it's only by doing that that we can really give our businesses the opportunity to thrive and to grow. And it is only businesses that make economies grow and thrive. Governments cannot do that. They can create an environment for it, but they cannot achieve it. It is only the businesses that grow and build economies. So my plea, Stefano, is that governments don't retrench to protectionism.
I like what you said, Marco, and if you allow me to do that, I would take your comment as a perfect comment to, let's say, wrap up and finish our webinar. So I take let's say this occasion to thank you all the panelists and all the attendees. I hope that now you will have a much clearer picture of the current status and the kind of opportunities that Brexit can open for the UK economy. And I hope also that you found the debate as lively and interesting as I did. So please stay well, and also stay tuned on us, because we are going to organize very soon another interesting webinar. Thank you again, and goodbye.
Thank you, Stefano.
you.
Thanks, everyone.
And,
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.